Hello everybody, I'm SnipingIsFun, and in today's video I'm going to be bringing you guys my 400th video special, or around 400, because technically my channel says 400, but I have made more than 400 videos over the years, but I have deleted a few. One of my videos is on copyright strike right now, and I don't count those. But like I normally do this every 100 videos. I usually do something special. When I did my first 100 video was my starting of my reviews. When I did the Ghostbusters came back like in 2009 on the PS2. My 200th video was like my Cray Wrestler special tribute kind of thing from the video games. My 300th video, I think I'm gonna have to look back on this. I think it was one of the End of Nation Titantrons. I'm not fully sure. I'll have to look back on that and I'll put it in like the detailed video selection. Now I'm here at my 400th video officially on YouTube. And that's mainly how I go by it anymore nowadays, because like I said, I have released more videos here on YouTube than 400. And when I put this video up, it will officially be 401 on my channel, but 400 for you guys to see because I have a copyright strike video that was taken down, as well as my top 15 favorite animes, part 2 and 3, which part 1 was the one that was taken down. I took those down. I deleted my Sims 2 video way back from 2007, and there's a few other videos that came and went kind of a thing. But like I said, every 400 video, when I actually reach every 400 videos I make slash every time I reach that number, every 100 videos I reach that number on my actual YouTube channel, which coincides with each other. Sometimes it's not exactly the same, because technically I'm at 400 with this video. I'm slightly above it with the number of videos I brought out since November of 2006, but who cares? I count both the same way, and I've already spent 2 minutes here or so wasting your time talking jibber jabber like this. I'm going to get into my video. My 400th video special is my return to my reviews, and I've changed it up this time. I'm not going to do it like I did back like in 2010 before, 2009, 2010, where I give an actual like score to each little element. I'm going to talk about the gameplay, the graphics, the sound and story, if there is multiplayer, and if there actually is a story, I'll include that in there, but I'm not going to give a grade to each one. What I'm going to do is talk about those things in enough detail and give just a score to the game. I'm not going to give like, oh, these numbers and I'm going to round them off and put the final score like that. No, I'm going to talk about those things and in my opinion just give a final score in general. And that's that. And the game I will be reviewing today, which you will be seeing in my name of my video, is Disney's Aladdin on the Super Nintendo. And yes, I have stated that I was going to return to my reviews with Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, but seeing as I haven't beaten that game yet, and I want to give a fair, honest review after I beat it, and I haven't really had much of a chance over Christmas break, sorry, it'll be in my next few reviews. I'll begin to that, but I wanted to give a score to this because I was trying to think, I wanted to think of something special, like I said, for my 400th video, and I wanted to get back to my reviews. Couldn't necessarily do Zelda. I've been playing this lately. I actually beat the game because it's not really that long anyways, and here's my review of Super Nintendo Disney's Aladdin. Now, let's start off with the gameplay. The gameplay is your basic platforming type game, where you go from point A to point B at the end of the stage. Like in Super Mario Brothers, you're able to jump on enemies' heads, and basically, just like kind of like in Mario, where you can use the fire flower ability, you can pick up apples in this game, and you can throw them at enemies to stun them. And sometimes the apples do take the enemies out, but most of the time it's to stun the enemy where you can actually jump on them. But there are other ways to actually be able to beat the enemy, because sometimes you could roll on like the pillars you can climb on, and you can kick your opponent, and you could also, there's sometimes like fire lanterns on the wall you could swing from, and if they fall down you can burn your opponent. There's different ways of doing it, but most of the time it's your simple basic platforming skills of just jumping on the enemy. Now when it comes to the game, there are some problems to the gameplay, and this has been said. You can see more details in K-Wing's review, but like one thing I'm going to talk about in this review, sometimes the controls are great. This is a good Capcom platforming game for back in the day, which they did do good Disney games back then. I have that Mickey Mouse game, Magic Quest or whatever it's called, the first one, and that's actually a fun, well put together Disney game too. It has some good controls, but I have to say it's not perfect. Sometimes the controls are not 100% working all the time. For the most part, they work pretty well. And one thing I'm going to say from K-Wing's review is sometimes when you could look, you can't really move the camera so much. Like if you crouch down, you can sometimes move the camera down a little bit or a little bit up, but you can't really see much past what you see on the screen. You have to go ahead to check. And like he said in the Cave of Wonders level, when you have to ride those logs, you can't really see down below to drop down and get on those logs, which then you'd have to move down closer, jump down the platforms a little bit and get closer to the logs and just jump down what you can see. But besides that, overall, and maybe some of the platforming things like jumping on the pillars, like especially in the genie level, and some platform abilities trying to jump on certain platforms, sometimes you have to, not so much, but you have to try to be precise sometimes. So the game's good, it has good platforming skills, but it does offer a challenge. It's not really so much cheap as much as the challenge there is there in the game. It actually is quite a challenging game. And then let's go to the graphics and presentation of the game. Basically, it has the art style of the characters from the, from the movie sort of, but in like, that basic pixelated 16-bit, Super Nintendo style kind of game. Kind of like what they did, what was made with like, what they did with like, the Mickey Mouse game, right from the Lion King, basic Mario, Zelda, a basic 16-bit style. The levels are detailed well enough to look like destinations, places, locations from the game, from the movie. They look detailed enough. You can see Agrabah, the streets of Agrabah look like how they looked in the movie. Cave of Wonders and Jafar's palace and all that is well detailed. And the extra levels that are not actually in the movie, like the genie's world and the pyramid you go in to chase Abu, look detailed for the kind of levels that they're trying to portray in there. The characters look well detailed. They look like the actual characters. And the graphics presentation of the game is like that basic 16-bit Super Nintendo art style that you would expect from such a game. It's not really that hard to go in detail on that. For the sound, a lot of the sound actually sounds like music from the movies. Like, done in like, like styles, like made off the computer, like, the kind of sounds like MIDI music or MIDI music kind of thing, like music you typically would hear after a typical Super Nintendo game. They did versions of the music actually from the game, but let alone some of the characters sound like the sounds from the characters from the game. Like if Aladdin gets hit, he sounds kind of like Aladdin, like the kind of noise. And overall, the music in the game is, I would say, is pretty well done. Not just based off the fact that it's music from like the movie, but based off the fact that it's just like each level has music that fits it. Like when you're in a boss battle, it changes to some kind of like action-y type, like something to get you into the mood. Like when you're facing the merchant in the first level, when you're facing Jafar kind of thing. They have music that fits the tone of each level. And like I said, a lot of there's music from the movie that's actually used as like MIDI music in the game. Now when it comes to story, this game actually follows the story of the movie pretty well. In between a lot of levels, they have little like slideshow with text, like cut scene kind of thing, like the detail scenes from like the movie. Like they have little scenes from the movie, like little slideshow pictures with like text popping up, like characters talking or detailed like background, like background voice, like telling what's going on kind of a thing. And it goes between each level, it transitions you between each level. And it follows the story pretty well. You go from like, I'm sure a lot of people have seen the movie, so I'm not going to be spoiling anything. This movie is like almost 20 years old now. It follows like when Aladdin meets Jasmine in the streets of Agrabah, to when you go in the Cave of Wonders because Jafar wants to get the lamp, escaping basically escaping the Cave of Wonders, trying to, like the lava going everywhere kind of a thing, getting on the magic carpet, flying out of there, meeting Jafar at the end of the game and beating him after he becomes like, he gets control of the genie, But there are some extra levels they toss in there that make the game a little bit longer. When you get out of the cave and you end up getting the genie, it was not in the movie, but there was an extra level added in, like the genie, you don't have a friend like me kind of stage where you go through like a magical like world that's made of like various genie objects, like you're going off like platforms that have like his head on it and everything. And then there is a stage where Abu gets away and travels into a pyramid, and you have to go in there and find him, which obviously wasn't from the movie either, but they added those in there as extra levels to lengthen the game. And even though they're not from the movie, they still make good stages in the game, although I can admit that the genie stage is going to be the stage that pretty much is going to annoy a lot of people because of all the platforming you have to do in there. And like I said, it follows the story pretty well. There's about like 7-8 levels in the game. It's not a super long game, so if you're really good at the game, you're not going to have a really tough time with it, but it's going to take a while. Like when I played the game ago, I didn't beat it since I got it. It took me about almost an hour to beat it, like multiple tries. About an hour 40 to almost 45 minutes or so, pretty much. And I was just playing the game. I wasn't even really trying to beat it, but I was trying to beat it, but not trying to beat it, kind of thing. So if you're really good at the game, you could beat the game fairly easy. But if you're having a tough time, it could take a while. So those levels might prolong you from getting to the end of the game. But it's about 7-8 levels, and there's some challenge in there. Some levels are fairly easy. There is a bonus level where you do a whole new world, which is the bonus level. You just collect gems, and basically back to the gameplay for a second. I forgot. You do collect gems during the game to, you know, like how you collect coins in Mario. And when you get a certain amount of like gems, which is 100, you get a level up, and a level up like a life up. You get an extra life. There's green gems, which are your basic 1-point gems, and the red gems, which I think are 5, and those are the harder ones to find. They're usually scattered around the level to try to offer you a challenge to try to find it, pretty much. And that's basically it. You can pick it, and basically if there's like, and that's basically you going around the level, get to the end, and that's basically the whole point of Aladdin. And there is another item I'm supposed to, I want to mention here, like K-Wing mentioned in his review. There is a cloth you can pick up normally in each level. If you lose all your lives and have all your continues and all your lives and then use a continue to go back, you're gonna have to find the cloth again. It's not always in a level, but it's kind of like the cloth, like where when you jump you can glide glide across parts of the stage, so you don't have to just jump platforming wise. And it really does make the game a little bit easier for a lot of platforming stages, especially Genie stage. It does make the game quite a bit easier. So if you can find that, it's basically the R button that you use to glide when you're in the air. It just offers a little bit of you can get through the game without it, but it does offer a sense of ease to it. So basically, to end off this review for Aladdin on the Super Nintendo, the gameplay is a fun platforming type game. There are a few problems to it. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close to being perfect. The graphics presentation is a good 16-bit art style for the game. It doesn't necessarily look as good as, like, let's say the Sega Genesis version, which actually is like the style from like the movie, like a cartoon type style. But there are a lot of people out there that would probably prefer the Super Nintendo look of the game, and it actually does look quite good. Music is like from the movie, and the story follows it pretty well with a few extra levels here and there. So all in all, I give Aladdin on the Super Nintendo a 9 out of 10, and I recommend it to anyone out there who's a fan of Disney video games, especially older Disney video games and platforming games. I'm SnipingIsFun. Hope you guys like this 400th video special, or return my reviews. See you guys in my next video. See you guys in my next review. Peace. Please subscribe, and have a nice day.